Hi everyone, my name is Alex Goodwin and I'm the Digital Marketing Manager at Teamwork Commerce. Welcome to this co-webinar with Teamwork Commerce, Klaviyo and FreshAddress. Today we're going to address the current trends around customer engagement and customer experience within the retail landscape to assess how retailers can craft a more attuned approach to building real, lasting and engaging relationships with their shoppers across sales channels. We'll start by looking at the current state of retail as it pertains to driving engaged customer experience, as well as the current workflow that retailers are leveraging to stay connected with their shoppers. And then we'll move into looking at how cloud retail technology is helping retailers to overcome the challenges of the marketplace. According to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, 75% of buyers prefer to purchase from brands that personalize their shopping experience, with 54% of brands recognizing the customer experience is the most important priority. This confluence of customers searching for engagement and brands working on becoming more engaging has led to rapid technological requirements that demand a platform to be more robust than existing legacy systems. While these siloed softwares provide value in driving experience, they do little to support long-term engagement, as personalization is critical and that comes only from relationship building. Retailers need a central source of data to effectively connect with customers across channels and provide access to consistent customer experience through every transaction. Nearly 70% of US shoppers are now regularly using BOPUS to purchase and collect their products on demand. This is an evolution of common customer trends, with consumers searching for increased convenience and reduction in fulfillment time for their orders. Customers are demanding targeted, engaging, and accessible experiences designed around their specific needs, their safety concerns, and their desire for convenience. Omnichannel retail has now become essential to compete in this broad marketplace. And recent data shows that 80% of customers who use buy online, pick up in store shop for other things while they're in store to pick up their orders. This is providing additional cross-selling opportunities for retailers, helping them to drive revenue, increase interaction, and provide a consistent customer satisfaction and a consistent experience in store and online. And if we look ahead to the rest of 2021 and beyond, we can start to see a new pattern emerging, with 59% of consumers now caring more about customer experience as a result of COVID. Store experiences now have to be worth more because they've become more infrequent. As recent analysis from McKinsey also highlights, consumers are not planning to resume their pre-COVID habits. Many are accepting their new fulfillment or purchasing habits as the new normal, and only time is going to tell if these trends are truly normalized. But one thing is clear, customer experience will now matter even more. With customers releasing their traditional brand loyalties, now is the time to captivate shoppers that are ready to try something new. So if we look at crafting a workflow that embraces the customer into your brand, we have to ensure that customers will stay loyal and engaged, and this will help us lead to more purchases and increase ROI over time. Connected retail is now the key emerging trend, and Gartner defines connected retail as providing a customer-centric experience based on how customers approach shopping with no limitations by channel. Essentially, this is omnichannel with a customer-focused twist. Retailers that are successful in providing unified commerce solutions are connecting three key elements in the customer journey: context, convenience, and control. And the only path to this is effective data synchronization across channels by creating a holistic vision of the customer. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about today. So I'll go ahead and introduce the speakers that will be presenting for you today. Presenting first will be Keith Reinhardt. Keith is the Director of Marketing at FreshAddress, where he is responsible for implementing strategies that build brand awareness, generate leads, and drive corporate growth. Following Keith, we'll have Michael Spinelli. Through his role, Michael is the key asset in driving client-focused solutions and empowering customer-centric retail experiences for our clients across the world. He works at Teamwork Commerce as the Sales Director. And then finally, we'll have Leslie Wong. Leslie works in partner marketing for Klaviyo, and through her role, she develops new partnerships with industry-leading solution providers, as well as expanding existing partners to maximize collaborative solutions. And as mentioned earlier, we will also have a case study from Planet Beauty, where we'll have Veronica Canello, who will be presenting at the end of the webinar. And then finally, we'll wrap up with Q&A. So I'll waste no more of your time, and I'll hand things over to Keith Reinhardt to run.
Thanks, Alexander. Great. All right, let's take a look and start with how email validation kind of fits into the customer experience puzzle. And I guess, but first, before we get too far into it here. Just a little bit about Fresh Address for those of you who aren't familiar with us. We're an email marketing intelligence company. We help businesses and nonprofits clean, protect, and grow their email database. We work with over 3,000 clients, including 25% of the Fortune 100. We've been around since 1999, and since then, we've helped our customers clean over 16 billion email addresses. And now let's take a quick look at the world we live in, which is all obviously changing rapidly. Email remains the most effective digital channel, and getting it right is a crucial part of delivering a stellar customer experience. We often say that email is king, and the king has definitely gotten stronger over the past year or so. This became very, very apparent when we lost physical touch with our customers in 2020. At that point, for a lot of us, email became just about the only way to keep in touch with customers. It was also vitally important when retailers started to reopen and had to educate customers on what to expect when they return. Just in terms of email, why we love it so much, it's the lowest hanging fruit for impacting marketing engagement and driving ROI. We see this $42, $44, $50 ROI on every dollar spent figure kicked around constantly, which is fantastic. But that ROI is only possible when your emails actually reach the inbox. So not anybody can just turn on an email program and see that type of ROI. You have to do it right, and landing in the inbox is a big part of getting it right. You can have the best creative, you can have the best offers, etc. But if your subscriber never receives it, then you're never going to generate that level of ROI. And in terms of ROI, and deliverability, there are a lot of factors that go into it, but what we see is the vast majority of deliverability issues stem from problems with the email addresses in your database. And these are the three biggest obstacles that we see to deliverability as it relates to those list quality issues. First and foremost, your email file is most likely corrupted. The second one is new data isn't always clean. There are issues with collection at every point of entry. I'll get into that a little bit in a moment. And the third is that clean data, good data, has a short shelf life. It turns bad. People change their email addresses. Those are going to bounce. Domains go dormant. Unused emails can turn into spam traps. So there are a lot of elements here that make this not the easiest venture and not really a DIY thing at all. Speaking of collection points and problems in those various areas, the best way to prevent deliverability issues is absolutely to clean and correct email addresses at the point of entry, everywhere you collect an email address. Speaking in terms of POS, our data shows that about 30% of the email addresses our clients collect at point of sale are entered incorrectly. It's a massive number. Every one of these bad or wrong addresses represents a lost business opportunity, and it really hurts the customer, the retailer's ability to honor their promise to customers. And it's just a massive number when you think of the sheer volume that retailers are collecting at point of sale. A few more important considerations when it comes to keeping your email data clean. I think the most important thing for a lot of us is that poor email data quality costs your company money. If you can't collect a clean email address for your customer, you can't properly monetize the relationship. You also can't honor your commitment to customers. They're giving you their email address and they have expectations. They want receipts, they want their rewards dollars, they want discounts. And when you can't honor that, that doesn't really bode well for the customer experience that you provide. As I'll get into in a second, there are many types of bad email addresses that can cause problems for you. Not all of them are easy to eyeball or find out and detect an ID on your own. Again, as I mentioned before, acquisition sources are flawed. You need to be really, really careful and scrutinize email addresses wherever they come from. And then I think the bright side of the equation here is that when you get this right, which doesn't require a whole ton of effort, just some focus on your end, it really yields some major results. If you clean and correct in real time, you're always capturing a clean, deliverable email address for your customer. You're keeping the bad, toxic spam trap addresses from ever entering your database. You're not running into problems with your ISP or third-party block listing organizations. You're not, jeopardizing your ability to send any email at all. Good email data quality leads to better inbox placement, higher engagement, and revenues. It's not the only factor, but it's definitely a big one. Now, just a quick look at the types of bad email addresses. These are some of the worst offenders that we see. You've got problematic addresses, which are spam traps, honeypots, etc., invalid, spam complainers, typos, role accounts, bogus email addresses, disposable email addresses. And I think the one big takeaway, aside from the fact that these are no good for your email marketing ROI and your program, is that data quality took a big hit during COVID. We saw 17%-ish fewer valid addresses be submitted from our customers in 2020. We saw almost a 50% leap in disposable addresses. And we found that problematic category, which encompasses spam traps, makes up about a 0.5% of the average list we see, which doesn't seem like a lot at first. But when you look at a list of 1 million records, that's 5,000 dangerous addresses. Just one of those spam traps, if it's the wrong one, could lead you to ISP blocking, third-party block listing that could prevent you from sending any email at all and not reaching any of your customers. So just something to keep in mind. And now let's take a quick look at how our process works. This is available in real time, implemented, integrated with the Teamwork solution, really easy to get up and running at point of sale. We use a check, correct, protect way of kind of talking about this. So the first step is very, very simple. We just make sure that it's a real email address. It can accept emails. The second, correct step, very important for point of sale. It's kind of like a spell check technology. Somebody puts in the wrong address, it will prompt them with a right address and allow them to make that correction in real time, so you're never getting any bad data into your database. And then protect is keeping out that toxic stuff that I spoke about before, the spam traps, the honeypots, the frequent complainers, the stuff that's really going to cause big problems for you. And then just to reemphasize some of the real-time benefits real quick, it's just no bad data is ever getting into your database. If you're working with a lead generation team, no bad leads are getting passed through. It's all accurate, real-time customer data that helps you deliver a better customer experience. No more high bounce rates. Your welcome emails are getting through, which are very important. Just some of the benefits. Here's a real quick look at an example of what this looks like on a web form for one of our customers. The process is very, very similar at point of sale. Someone enters an email address. Our technology tells you that you're missing an @ sign. This is an incorrect email address. It doesn't pass that first step, and then it prompts you with a suggestion for a correction. So you're always capturing clean, accurate data. And finally, just to look at some of our recent client wins. I think the Shoe Carnival case study might be more applicable here. They just had an issue at point of collection in a super busy retail environment. We're collecting tens of thousands of spam traps and suffering as a result. Their welcome emails, the deliverability on those were not good. They really needed to work with a partner to get that ship in order, and we helped them do that and generate a very substantial ROI in the process. So that's just kind of a quick look at some of the problems to be aware of, some of the benefits of focusing on email address quality, and then some of the results of doing so. And I think that's it for me. I'll pass it back to the Teamwork folks.
Thanks, Keith. And next up, we have Mike Spinelli.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Spinelli. I'm the sales manager here at Teamwork. I'm going to be walking you guys through today the current retail challenges that exist. So when I'm walking through some of these challenges, I want you guys to really consider if this is how you're currently operating your business today. Run through the benefits of having omnichannel, and then really talking about having the power of a unified retail approach for the future. So today, digital transformation is really holding back retailers. As you know, technology is evolving quickly and retailers really need to adapt and react to increasing consumer demands, which 2020 has definitely proven. Retailers need to be forward thinking and become less dependency on legacy systems and moving to a cloud-based solution. And what I mean by the cloud-based solution is that, cloud provides the ability to be able to give that real-time insight into how your business is performing. It provides the data points of the connections to where you're able to identify and bridge the gap within those siloed retail channels to where you don't necessarily have the view into who your customer is or how that business is actually even performing. So when you think about it, and it's already estimated by the end of 2021, 90% of brick and mortar retail will be offering BOPIS or another customized in-store experience. So if you're not offering any of these experiences today, such as BOShip, buy online, ship from store, buy online, return in store, any of these fast servicing convenience options for your customer, you really need to start thinking about a new approach. In order to deliver leading in-store experiences, retailers need to adapt their approach to e-com and mobile sales to prevent customers from falling through the sales channel funnel and providing a unified retail channel experience to eliminate any friction out of that customer journey. So if you look today, 66% of all online shoppers rely on more than just one channel for purchases. When they're not recognized in every channel, they experience friction. And this is extremely important because a majority of the shopper experience starts online. And when your systems aren't connected, nor do you have visibility into who your customers or how they're shopping, it's really hard to engage with them with meaningful email, SMS, or just be keeping them informed just from an in-store visit. And as COVID showed us, guys, the customer shopping behavior has shifted tremendously. Just in the last year, retail channels are still siloed and fractured. You're running the risk of losing these customers, which turned into lost revenue. 96% of customers shop online, but 65% of the customers spend in store. So when you think about that, having that guidance and being able to see their full customer journey to be able to service them is key. You want to be able to service them through email automation. You want to be able to keep them aware of your next sale. You want to invite them to your store for any type of sneak peek into your collection. And the more that you understand about your customer's behavior, the greater it's going to lead to more meaningful experiences for your brand. Which leads us to really what, the omni-channel is doing for most retailers today. Omni-channel retail has really transformed the way retailers connect with their customers, making it more about the omni-channel experience. You're going to keep hearing me say this, but having a universal view of your business and your customer provides significant competitive advantage over your competition. If you look at that statistic there, 33% of your customers end their relationships because their experience was not personalized enough. I mean, if you think about that, that could just be not inviting them to come back to your store to shop with you. Engagement is so important, and making your customer feel important is going to retain them and keep them loyal. Retailers today lack the visibility into those profiles, which prohibits them from servicing them correctly. It goes back to understanding where they're shopping, where they're located. Geography plays a big difference in how consumers are engaging with you online. You don't want to be marketing them jackets when they're in Florida. So the more that you have the ability to service your customer and the more information you have, the better off you're going to be and the more successful you're going to be in driving return on investment. So when you think about it, companies, if you just think about enhancing your systems, you'll overall enhance your retail operations, which will generate 20 to 30% lift in customer satisfaction, and then 10 to 20% improvement in employee satisfaction. And when you look at the entire retail landscape, the companies that are focused on their customer experiences see gains of 4 to 8% in revenue, and they're outperforming their competition by almost 80%. And it's all about the investment and taking the time to really ensure that you have a system in place to where you can really focus on the customer experience. As Kevin was talking about, having, the ease, or sorry, Keith was talking about, one of the biggest advantages to retail is the email marketing. That's the gateway. Having that reliable information and making sure that your messaging is being communicated to your customer, is being reached, is the start of it. I mean, the emails result in the highest level of engagement and conversion rate of really any marketing factor. When customers place orders, what's the first thing that they receive? They receive an email. When they sign up for an account, what's the first thing they receive? It's an email. So these emails are not being effectively leveraged into marketing opportunities, then you're leaving profits on the table. In-store customers need to be recognized and easily engaged with the retail staff. And when you have a system that's natively integrated, you're able to bring and combine all of the channel experiences into one focal point to where you can best service them, regardless of the channel in which they're shopping. So which then brings us to the omnichannel advantage. When you think about omnichannel, it's such a loose term. When you hear these words omnichannel, what does it mean to you? I love asking this question when I'm talking with my clients and prospects of like, hey, what does it really mean to you to be omni? So really all omnichannel is having all channel streams integrated for maximum shopper experience and convenience. And really listed here, are really the key factors of what really drives omnichannel for retailers. One is improving the customer experience, which I've been alluding to throughout the presentation. It's key. Customer experience is key. Start thinking about how you can advance the service options that you're providing your customers today. Are you offering buy online, pick up in store? Buy online, ship from store, in-home delivery services, curbside pickup, buy online, return in store. All of these services create seamless shopper experiences. And then when you think about when the customer comes in store, do you have integrated payments? Are you able to refund directly to the customer's card without them having a card present or a receipt present? You can easily just look them up by their email address, and it brings up and provides you a complete profile of the customer history. Do you have a system right now that allows you to do mixed cart transactions? Are you able to take an online order, have them come in store to pick it up, and then while they're in store, your associate upsells them on 2 new items, but they're not able to fill it from the store, so you have to ship it from another store. All this is possible when you have a unified and natively integrated system. Universal gift cards, both that work both online and in store. Start thinking about having a mobile solution to where when you're in peak season or you're doing holiday rush or in-store promotions, you have a line busting solution where you can quickly ring up transactions and get customers in and out of the store. Order change management, processing returns and new item sales in the same checkout flow. All this is possible with the correct software integration to create a full connected experience for your customer. Next, driving sales and return on investment. Omnichannel optimizes that back end for the retail process. It gives you those endless aisle inventory views to be able to sell anything that you have in store. Automated order processing. Have a system that takes the dependency out of your staff's hands and have it automated to where it order fulfills to the right location based upon available to sell quantities. Real-time analytics is key. When your systems are unified, you have real-time visibility to make those key, insightful business decisions that really impact your business. And then it goes through automation with your messaging. Again, it goes back to, really enticing the customer and keeping them engaged throughout the customer journey, whether it's emails, SMS, or MMS. Increasing brand awareness is another, being present everywhere your customer's shopping. The shopping experience should be seamless. The interaction points and messaging with your brand should all be consistent. And then the most important thing really is that holistic customer view. It really allows retailers to create that personal experience for customers via promotion, new collection release, first shop opportunities. Knowing who your customer is, is key. Understanding their buying behaviors, online versus in store. Know what they're shopping for with full visibility into their purchase history. Engage with them through loyalty rewards and additional discounts to get them to become more loyal. All this is provided when you have a system that brings all of these data points together. And then enhancing access. Omnichannel allows you to be present everywhere. Your customers are online, brick and mortar, social media marketplaces. Meet them where they're shopping. You only have one chance to be able to capture that customer, and you need to be front facing whenever they are and when they're shopping. And the greatest access, the greater the access you have to customers, and the ability to service them will only enhance their ability to grow with you and increase the brand loyalty that they have with your business. So with that, I'll pass it back over to you, Alex.
Thanks, Mike. And next up, we have Leslie Wong from Clayville.
Hey, everybody. This is actually Stuart Wesley from Clayville. You can probably tell by my voice I am not Leslie Wong. Leslie's daughter, Livy, who is about to turn 1 next month, decided that she needed Leslie's attention more than we did. So I'll be taking over for her part of the presentation. She might chime in at some point if she is able to to come back, but we'll see. And so what we're going to talk about in the next section is just a little bit about how these experiences can be brought into email. And I'm going to go relatively quickly through some high-level brand experiences. And then we're going to talk to Veronica from Planet Beauty, and that's going to be way more interesting than what I'm talking about because she has a lot of really awesome firsthand experience growing a brand at a meteoric rate in 2020. And I think that's just about as interesting as it gets when talking about omnichannel. We can talk about the features, but we want to see how it actually all comes together. So moving on to the next slide. Thank you very much. So there's this dream, and I wouldn't call it a myth because it is possible, but it's hard. But there's this dream that I always hear being sold of like a true omni-channel, true single view of the customer. And I think what people don't always mention is that it's pretty hard. There are 6 different touch points that most customers will interact with when they're engaging with your brand. And typically all these systems are disconnected. And it poses a really big challenge for brands, as I'm sure most of you have felt, because typically these systems don't talk to each other, they're disconnected. In my job at Klaviyo, I work on figuring out these integrations and deploying them for brands. And so I can tell you firsthand, most tools do not integrate well together. And so when you find tools that integrate well together, that can often be the biggest determinant of true success for getting that one view of the customer and true success when you're trying to figure out how you can actually implement an omni-channel strategy. Way easier to talk about, harder to actually implement, as I'm sure you know. So moving on, I just want to quickly touch on why it's actually important to think about this in terms of revenue, which is of course our main goal here. And so the first number is 3 times is the amount that a segmented and personalized email or SMS marketing campaign will perform compared to a more generic communication. This is not new. This was established early in email that those billboard approach to emails are just not a good strategy. And when you think about what personalization means in the context of omnichannel, it's about recognizing purchases from both online and in-store, segmenting your customers based on the store they go to. It's not necessarily complicated stuff, but if you don't do it, you're going to come off as tone deaf to your customers, and they're just not going to engage at the same rate. And they will engage at exactly 1/3 the rate that they would if you just took the time to personalize a bit. The next thing is actually 30%. So increase in overall revenue from omnichannel customers. This is from a report that a partner Adyen put together. And I like this report a lot actually because it actually takes into account that omnichannel customers always buy twice. If you bought omnichannel, you had to have bought from at least 2 times. And sometimes I see people not realizing that when they make these studies. So I like this number because it's very realistic. If you implement omnichannel strategies, it's reasonable to expect somewhere in this neighborhood of lift from just kind of recognizing the channels your customers come through, cross-selling, and increasing that personalization. So I want to actually talk about specific brand experiences because I think one thing I see happen is when we spend, if I were to spend too much time talking about the high level approaches, it just gets too abstract and we can't actually see what brands have done to be really successful in doing this. And it's not rocket science. There are some interesting things that can be done. You can get really complicated in how you build your segments and how you build your flows in your email tool. But the most basic strategies will unlock a ton of value immediately. So if you're not doing some of these things at all, even just doing a test will show you that there's a lot of engagement that can come out of these types of strategies. So at the risk of just repeating myself, because I'm about to talk about all of these again, I just want to jump into the first brand example. And this is about a concept that I'm sure most people have heard about for the first time in 2020. I don't think buy online, pick up in store was ever as hot as it was in 2020 when we started to see mass closures of brick and mortar stores. And I think in a lot of ways, it kind of kept brick and mortar relevant at a time when we absolutely could not use brick and mortar in the same way we always have. And so I want to call it Mexicali Blues. I've actually had the pleasure to work with them a little bit, helping them with their Teamwork Retail and Klaviyo integration. And so you can see that that they're doing things to incorporate an understanding of, one, customer behavior across channels, and two, specific like transactional type communications around buy online, pick up in store. So the first one is looking at both online purchases and in-store purchases when they're considering who are their best customers. And this is what I would consider a level 1 strategy that can unlock a ton of value, because we are all trying to figure out who our best customers are. We're trying to figure out where we're going to get the most impact from communications and from getting our customers to move along in their buyer's journey towards those really high LTV evangelist type customers. And if you only ever consider your customers from the perspective of one channel, you're going to miss out on these customers who love your brand, and they love it so much that they're buying from you everywhere they can. So they're going in store and they're going online. But if your segment only looks at online or in store independently, you're not going to realize that you have these true, really kind of VIP customers that you should be communicating with. And so that's one strategy that Mexicali Blues tried out, which is really effective. The next one is a transactional one, but if you don't send these emails, again, this is a basic strategy. Oh, sorry, going back to that buy online in store. Sorry, I gave you a false flag on switching slides. If you don't send a communication about your buy online, pick up in store, your customer is going to be incredibly confused, and you're going to have increase in support tickets and customer confusion. They're not going to want to do it again. So this is a very basic strategy, easy to set up, but if you don't do it, it has a really big impact on customer experience. It'd be great to move to the next slide. Thank you. So looking at Kierna Zabet, so they focus on a few things. So the first is segmentation based on past behavior, which I want to get into in a little bit of a different way than in the last example. So what you can see here is specific store kind of targeting. And this is something you can also do with the Klaviyo Teamwork Retail integration. We actually just figured out the best way to do this recently. And what you can see here is they're really kind of trying to show that there's a person that's going to be there in store for you. Not only is it just a person, it's the store director, and with a brand like Kierna Zabet, where there's a huge focus on style and design and high fashion, this is something that can be a real differentiator for someone who's about to spend a few $100s on a hat or a jacket. And so this kind of personalization shows that you've paid attention to where the customer shops. You can send them relevant store-based communication. So if the Soho location has a product, and you can tell the customer specifically about that product and not worry about miscommunicating because you accidentally told someone who goes to your Palm Beach location about it. The next thing is you can encourage repeat purchases based on specific products purchased. So we get this really rich event-based data from Teamwork Retail, and basically you can use this to say, okay, I know someone bought a hat from me in the past. I want to send them products that are relevant to that product. And there's some cool approaches there that Kierna is taking advantage of. And then, as we discussed, knowing the person's preferred store, or what we can imply is their preferred store if they shop there a number of times, you can just make sure that you're communicating to them only the most relevant information and limiting the amount of noise that they might get exposed to from your brand. Awesome. So, and moving on to, again, the most important part of this conversation, and we'll hear a lot more from Veronica in just a moment, but so Planet Beauty is doing a really, really important strategy here, which is just recognizing who's an online customer and who's an in-store customer. If you do nothing else, this is the most impactful email strategy for an omni-channel brand. Just recognize who's shopping where, and when you send them a promotion, know what you're trying to get them to do. You could hypothetically send an online customer an in-store promotion with the idea that you want to drive that omni-channel experience. But if you don't think that's going to work, or you tested it and you know your customers don't actually respond to that, then you want to at least be aware of how you are approaching those strategies. So both can work, but for your brand, you need to identify, will your in-store customers respond to online, and will your in-store customers respond to in-store promotions, and vice versa. And so without further ado, I want to introduce you all to Veronica. And just as a first question, Veronica, would love to hear just about your role at Planet Beauty, and would love to just have you introduce yourself to the group.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me today. So I'm the operations manager and the senior buyer for Planet Beauty. I've been with Planet Beauty since 1995, so I've seen the progress for all this time. We went from regular beauty supply to a 45 chain. And the challenge that we had was when in 2020, when all happened, was the fact that our bread and butter was always the stores. We focused all this time in the locations, in training, in bringing customers back to stores. And with the pandemic, we realized that we had to open up and create new experiences and new opportunities. So we came across all these options. There's so many options out there, but we got directed in the right direction. We have been partnering with Teamwork for many years now, and they actually recommended Klaviyo. And since then, it's been it opened up so many options. Like we have a full visibility on what the customers are buying, where are they going, what are their preferences, and it's much easier to target customers based on their likes or on their purchasing behavior than relying exclusively in employees, like what we did in the past. We had to retrain employees all the time on how to recommend someone if they were buying skincare, how to recommend them, how to train the employee to recommend something related to skincare and increase the unit per transaction. So the tools that we have made it much, much easier.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and Veronica, I think you said 1995. That is, you've seen it all in terms of the development of e-commerce. And even looking at your site, I noticed everything from Magento 1.3 was the earliest I saw to Magento 2. So that's quite a kind of, you've seen many iterations as the e-commerce ecosystem has grown to allow for you to solve these use cases. And it sounds like you were thinking about online, like optimizing online and omnichannel experiences before the pandemic. But I do want to ask, because it's so hard not to kind of acknowledge 2020, let it stay behind us as much as it can. But how did last year impact the strategies that you were already kind of implementing related to omnichannel and online versus in-store?
Well, we had to, it was just, we had all this in mind, but we were not in any hurry to make it happen. And all of a sudden in March, we just had to decide on the spot that from week 1 to week 2, we had to implement buy online, pick up in store. We had to communicate with customers as efficiently as having them in the store, and don't lose them, because it was so easy for them to just go to Amazon or go to all these other, there's so much competition out there. So we had to come up, I think the challenge was just, the timing.
Definitely. Yeah, so you had to do it super quickly. And so you mentioned buy online, pick up in store. What other strategies did you see work really well for this?
Well, we tried a few things, but the buy online, pick up in store, I think is the most effective right now, and it's a learning curve. Like we're still learning how to improve it, but I will say that BOPIS is the best option that we have right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think the most important kind of revelation I had in thinking about kind of your experience for 2020 and omnichannel more broadly is, in light of everything that happened, in light of being forced to roll out these strategies early, you guys had an amazing year. And if you're okay with me sharing those imagination media numbers from a case study they did on you, we're talking about hundreds of percentage points of growth for the overall business, 18x growth in revenue, and almost a 3 times increase in conversion rate. That is amazing. It's amazing that you had to react so quickly. And so I would love to just hear about kind of what you think made it so successful in light of the stress and urgency that came with the pandemic.
Well, definitely having the right team. You know, we work with Teamwork and Imagination Media and Klaviyo. We have a great team in every company gave me a great team to work with. And also we're small enough where we can quickly implement changes. You know, there was that easy transition from making, you know, testing something one day and then being able to implement it in 2 to 3 days at the store level. And that gives us the flexibility to find, you know, what was the right formula and then duplicate it in all the stores.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think I love that you called out testing. That's core to what we believe at Klaviyo, and I know in e-commerce we're always looking at the data in general. But just on that note, what did you see not work? I think sometimes we hear about strategies that sound amazing on paper, and then when we actually put them in front of customers, they don't always work. So is there anything you saw for Planet Beauty that you tried out and you said, you know what, this might work for other brands, but maybe not for us?
I mean, no. What I will say is like having a fluent communication with customer, regardless of what technique you use or what software you use, having an ongoing communication and keeping the customer informed of all the process if they're doing something new. The challenge we had was like bringing all those customers that they were used to buy in the store, making them comfortable to buy and do buy online, pick up in store from Planet Beauty, because they were already Amazon customers. It was easy for them, but we needed to convince them somehow that it was easy for them to do the same, you know, driving through the store. And it was a fluent transaction. It was an easy transaction. And I think that the technology is great. It's an amazing part of the whole thing, and it made our lives a lot easier. But also, I think the biggest secret is keeping, you know, the human touch behind it and making sure that we can communicate with customers as needed. Always being able to use the technology to be able to, you know, reach out to the customer and see what they need and chat with them if they have to. Email them on every process of the buy online, pick up in store. Just keeping them informed. I think that was the biggest thing that I got from all this.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's at the heart of this is caring about your customers and caring about their experience. And I do think that for all the ease that Amazon offers, that is maybe the primary competitive advantage that brands have over the fastest shipping conceivable and buying at a click of a button and living on the phone in a mobile app. And so yeah, I think that's really cool that you were able to find that human touch in all of this. And then the only last question I have on that is, how much of that human touch did you automate in your brand versus did you kind of automate and with Klaviyo flows and automations and other systems versus having your team also make sure there was that true personal touch of a rep on it?
Well, Klaviyo definitely helped me a lot to be able to reach out to customers and recommend the products they're interested in. So segmenting by past behavior, segmenting by city, it makes everybody's job so much easier. I will say that, you know, because it's impossible to reach out to every customer, but that puts all the information right on your hands. So it's easy to to follow through with the customer experience one by one.
Definitely.
Segmentation allow me to because we only have so many, so many seconds to get the customer attention. So in order for me to take full advantage of those seconds, sending something that is meaningful for the customer was critical. So we're still improving that, but that's the goal, making sure that not only the transaction it's flawless, but also those first few seconds that the customer sees those emails, it talks to them. It relates to what they need. It relates to what they purchased in the past. It's a solution for the customer, and it's easy to understand. It's easy to read. And Klaviyo helped me to. I mean, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have been able to do this without being able to segment with Klaviyo.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to call out that Klaviyo has those tools, and all email providers really have those types of segmentation automation tools. We like to think we make it a little bit easier, but I think the key is Klaviyo without data sources is kind of useless. If you don't integrate your e-commerce platform, if you don't integrate Teamwork and make sure the email addresses are correct, then it's not useful. So that data, it's kind of like, that's our vision, is we almost rely on all of our integration partners to actually allow for this to happen at all. But that makes a ton of sense. And we're coming a little close on time. So just kind of a last question for you. Veronica, if you were giving recommendations to somebody who's thinking about developing an omni-channel strategy in one way or the other, what would you recommend to them? It sounded like human touch was a core part of that, but would love to hear if you have any other tips for people thinking about these problems.
I think that's just having the right team in every aspect. For us, having the right team in Teamwork, having the right team in Klaviyo and Imagination Media made a big difference, made it easier for us. So choosing the right partner and just training. There's a lot of training that needs to happen at the store level, at least for us, in order to be able to deliver and make it flawless for customers.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Amazing. So I think we are at time. I want to encourage everybody to reach out if you have additional questions.